Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Casting Conflicts. Of course, today got another great matchup lined up for today. But before we get into that, of course, looking back at our last matchup and how that affected the boards here, not much actually, as we did see Jay be victorious over Death's Advocate, giving him his first set loss for the season and moving him up one spot. Meanwhile, Death not really moving on the boards, considering that his win rate has been just so strong above the other players, and yeah, just isn't really dropping from there. So, with that being said, we do have another game to get to today, and of course, that is going to be vesaven taking on Bolas. And to help me commentate this one again, unfortunately, Tweakin not able to jump in, so we've got Jump. How you doing, buddy? You doing good?
Yeah, good to be in the casting booth.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been in here, hasn't it?
Yeah, a little while, but good to be back, and I'm excited for today's matchup.
Yeah, we've got a good one lined up as Vesa takes on Bolas. Vesa has been having a bit of a resurgence. Struggled in the first matchup, but overall has been winning consistently in his sets. Meanwhile, Bolas on the other side not able to pick up a set victory yet, and is really one of our struggling players in this season. But with that being said, I mean, looking at the matchup, I mean, we've got the green-red monster approach from Vesa going up against Bolas's, in his words, his Rackaboom deck, the Knight and Rakanoth combination, utilizing Dragon Lord to bring out early Rakanoths. But with that in mind, Jump, who do you favor in this matchup and why?
Well, we've seen both the decks on the screen, but both being piloted by strong players. Even though Bolas hasn't picked up a set win yet, got to remember he's been high on the ladder. Vesaven also a very strong player. I think I'm gonna have to give the edge to Vesaven in this matchup. Just the counter to no interactions, which is a similar deck to Bolas's list, is to play high health units. You really want to bring out those 6, 7, and sometimes more health units. And if we look at Vesaven's list, he's got exactly that. He's got the monsters bringing in Grendel, Serpent Witch, Minotaur, Windfall Griffin, Northlands Ranger, all these units that can't be burned off of the field. So I'm going to give the edge to Vesaven in this matchup.
Right, and I mean, on similar reasons, I think I'm going to give you that. I'm going to follow the prediction in suit, honestly. And also, vesaven, again, has just been a strong player recently. It just seems like he's really picked up his game inside of the season. So I think he's not going to drop that ball anytime soon as we get into the matchup. But with that being said, we do have a game to get to. Game number 1. Are you ready to jump into it?
I'll see you there.
All right, let's go ahead and get that started. Match number 1 coming to you right now. Alright folks, welcome back. Match number 1 as we're getting set up here in the mulligans. Looks like we're going to swap away the Griffin and get ourselves a nice little Hovel, Elvish Thief, and Southport to start us off. A lot of ramp in Vase's hand. Should be a good time for him, I imagine.
We did see a Phantom Strike there as well. That's not in his main deck, so he's running at least one sideboard card here. Who knows if he's got more of them.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that comes into play later.
Yeah, but amazing start. 2 Rat Hovels, some Elvish Thief, Southport Captain, all early game cards and lots of power. But I like the Keeper of the Doorway in the opening hand too. If you have too much early game, sometimes you run out of cards to play, but Keeper is going to keep creating new cards in the hand and allow him to not face that problem.
Yeah, things like Horseman, Banshee would be incredible pickups. Banshee especially, because not only do you get the cheap body, that 3/2, but also the spell to refill the hand, giving you more tools to work with. So we'll see if he can get that Keeper on the board here. He's going to opt for the Witch Rat Hovel for now, or yeah, it's Serpent Witch. That's the name of the card, right? Serpent Rat Hovel for turn here, and this is, I mean, going to be annoying for Bolas if he's got no removal against those hovels. Generating those 1/1 bodies every turn is going to be an absolute nightmare for his deck. Although things like Dragon's Fire, Flamestorm could clean it up, and setting up the Taurus files, we could potentially see a Flamestorm hit the board very soon.
Right, we know that Bolas is running tons of AoE removal. He's got actually not any Flamestorm in his main deck, but he's got 3 copies of Luminaris and 3 copies of Rakanoth. So it might take a little bit longer to get to the clears. Oh, he's got 3 Flamestorms as well.
Yeah, I was about to
No,
say.
sorry, no Dragon's Fires. That's the card I was thinking of.
Yeah, let's say Flamestorm has to be in the main deck if we're running Tarius files in here as well. It just doesn't make sense to me why you would run it in that scenario. I mean, some people argue that it's a fine blocker, maybe even like a spawn harasser, but without Flamestorm, you don't really guarantee yourself that draw, and at that point, it's very risky to run it. Here's a nice little combo though: Witch into the Questing Knight to stun it. That way, Keeper taking no damage, generating Vase of that free unit. Does pick up a Wraith from it, which is a little bit expensive, but still a mighty useful card here, as we're going to start to see a little bit of chip here onto Bolas's castle here. The Southport and those rats making their way, getting ever so closer, and this is where the lack of AoE could potentially hurt Bolas.
Yeah, we're seeing an explosive start from vesaven. I like the combo, but it's important to remember, based on their faction colors, that trading 3 chip damage to each side is beneficial in Bolas's favor, since he's got healing, whereas vesaven can't have healing.
That is true. The lack of yellow definitely means that Vesa, with every bit of damage he takes, it's going to be a bit more, what's the word for it here? Bit more devastating to him. Maybe not too devastating if you're taking 1 or 2, but definitely if that starts to accumulate over time, it's gonna get harder for him to catch up in the game here. We did see a nice drain life though. That does create the little 6/7 dark bender in the back there. That's gonna be extremely useful at potentially defending off some of these big creatures here, like Keeper, that gets a little too far in my opinion.
Well, I think vesaven. Oh,
No.
there's a Dragon's Fire not in the main deck. Wow.
Well, there's Bolas' sideboard for you coming in hot. The Dragon's Fire to clear off most of this early swarm here.
Yeah, big moment. It really turned the tide. But 2 rats each turn, it'll come back.
And not to
It's
mention these big
not going to
bodies too.
stay held off for long. Yeah, the big bodies are great against AoE burn. We saw the Serpent Witch stay alive. We've got a huge 7 health Minotaur. So we could see something happen, but
And it looks dire for Vesa though, dealing with the 6/7 Dark Bender that's got a lot of board control. Not to mention Bolas's grip looking mighty healthier than compared to Vesa's, up
yeah,
a whole double amount of cards.
the interesting thing about this matchup is it's never really a game over for either of them. They can always spring back, and we see a Kraken in hand for vesaven now. That's not going to come out for a while, I predict, but in the long term, that could be huge.
Almost like a mini Arbiters. You're not getting the healing, but you're getting a permanent big body that could potentially just end the game if the opponent isn't careful about it. We see Con Artist, of course, connecting to the Frog Prince, so Frog Prince losing its resolve. We are keeping the Dark Bender around, but really looking at the hand, not a whole lot of directions that Vesa can go. He plays the Wraith, which is fine. I mean, Bolas knows it's in the hand thanks to the Keeper, but I don't know. This Dark Bender just seems way too overpowering for Vase to deal with. I think this might secure Bolas a game 1 victory, potentially, but again, like you said, it's not a game over for either player, I think.
Yeah, if you're in Vesa's position right now, the thing you want to draw is Dagger Storm. Just keep bleeding out that Dark Bender turn after turn, and it won't take long when Bolas doesn't have too many units on the board. Hopefully you can get 2, maybe even 3 ticks per turn. And then another interesting thing to note is the buildings in the back row are essentially full right now, with 2 rats spawning at each one. And Bolas is getting closer to those Luminaris or Rakanoth turns. Yeah. So that could be a big swing moment coming up as well.
Yeah, the Frog Prince looking like it's being pushed up in a position where instead of trading with the Wraith, he opted to keep it alive, and that kind of tells me Bolas has some kind of plan for it. At least that's the idea behind that. So, like you said, we could be seeing a Luminaris, which, Vesa may be predicting here, although putting a lot in the way of defense here. Not sure if that's going to feed into a more valuable Luminaris, but we'll see as Grendel gets played for the turn here, leaving Kraken the only card for Vesa to work with.
Yeah, it's very tough to position around both the Luminaris and this huge Darkbender. You want to block it off effectively, but not sacrifice any of your big units.
And there's the Luminaris.
Well, there it is.
Ugh, taking a
So he's going to take no buildings with him, but clear out the board, which is all that Bolas really needs. He's got the stall in the late game.
He's got the grip
And
now. I mean, again, keeping at least double the hand size of Vesa. There's a Dagger Storm.
that is the dagger storm that he was hoping for.
I
It's risky to play it before when there are 2 units on board, but yeah, that big, big Kraken play is going to actually take out the Darkbender this turn.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious to see how much bleed. I assume probably because Lumberjack took 1, the Darkbender did have 2 on it, which is kind of a luckier spread for Vesa. I would have preferred maybe that Lumberjack got removed somehow, but we're not in the position to be particularly picky with it, I guess is the proper way to put that. Kraken does do a good job, though, removing the Darkbender, making Bolas kind of start from scratch here. Still has Atarius files, though. That's a big thumbs up.
Yeah, we're looking at a huge board state advantage for vesaven right now. But Bolas has 7 cards in hand, whereas vesaven only has his 1.
Ooh,
So we're going to see... Ooh, interesting. So we're going to see if Bolas is going to be able to outlive only drawing 1 per turn. Right now, he's limited more by his cards in hand than he is by his money.
Right, and that's an interesting card to pull for turn here. Flame Shield could... okay, we're going to swing the Kraken back around, dealing with the Mordok, generating another Banshee. I would like to maybe potentially see this Flame Shield land on the Grendel and start doing some big damage to face here to kind of put Bolas in the more defensive position here, allow us to kind of rebuild our hand. Cause we are approaching sudden death soon, so we'll get that double draw going. But in the meantime, chip away at Bolas's castle here, taking a big 8 swing potentially for the turn.
I agree entirely. I think you've got limited time left. Say, this is what I've got in my hand. Don't reserve anything. Just as much pressure as you can.
Minor misplay there with the rat being pushed up close to the Grendel. The Inferno from Flame Shield will take it out, unfortunately. We'll see if Bolas can recognize that and just focus all of his efforts on either the Grendel or the Kraken.
Yeah, 1 damage can matter. It's always those little tiny optimizations that make or break a game. If you make too many small little mistakes, it can cost you.
Exactly.
And right now, if that rat was alive and Bolas can't kill this Grendel, then that could have been game ender. But no, with the big Arbiter's heal, it's going to take a few more turns.
Yep, and of course there's the Flame Shield popping the rat. Bolas knew that he can only really target the Kraken with it, so he did remove that for the turn here. It does leave Grendel to deal some, again, big damage to face here, nearly negating all of that Arbiter heal that just went down, which is unfortunate, but it does give Bolas some breathing room here, and even with the Plunder Treasure, perhaps we could see that come in handy.
Yeah, I love that positioning from vesaven too. A lot of newer players will forget to recognize that Blacksmith, unlike Armory, he can deal damage. So if he's able to get a lethal, throwing down killing the Tarius Files with 1 or 2 of the rats, and then swing in with a Blacksmith could be the game ender. But now that we're into sudden death, we're looking at 2 draws per turn, and vesaven is definitely cheering. That's the best thing he could hear is 2 cards per turn instead of the one he's been used to.
That is true, and even with this Morlock now for a turn, going to make it even harder for Bolas to kind of find an opening, find the opportunity to swing in to end the game here. I mean, the Grendel buff from the kill was nice on the Frog Prince, but in the end, how much is that really going to do against this incoming swarm of rats and Morlock? Doesn't
Yeah,
really seem like a
so
lot.
would you have swung with the Mordok generate an undead unit? We can predict that Bolas doesn't have Flamestorm, or else he would have used it by this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in that respect, it's probably best. Okay, lots of things happening here. Interesting. I was
I
gonna
mean,
say,
we gotta do what
in
we
that
gotta do.
respect, yeah, you want to keep your card advantage and not let Bolas draw more cards, but also generate an undead unit before inevitably you get taken down by the Phantom
Lumberjack
Strike
Phantoms.
Lumberjack.
Oh my god, here. But I mean, I don't think it bothers Vesa too much. He's, again, still got a dominant board position here, and now with another big body coming out in the form of the Griffin. It's just, I don't really see Bolas coming back from this. Nothing short of a huge Raka bomb, which is possible. We did play the Dragon Lore, so Raka is at 7 gold rather than the normal 10 here. So if we get a cheap body, perhaps, we could potentially win here. I don't see it
Yeah,
happening,
I'm
though.
looking at the list. I don't see anything that would be able to summon a Raka, an undead, or a dragon card that costs less than 3. So yeah, Headless Horseman are the 2 that he's looking for. They cost a little bit more, and with that attack and the sudden death trigger, I think that's going to be. Oh, sorry, no, he already swung.
Yeah, it's not over yet, but
Not
again,
over yet.
it
Not over yet, but it's looking tough to recover.
I mean, something like a Faithful Drake potentially, but the way that Vase is positioned here kind of makes it difficult for the Faithful Drake to push up and be aggressive, to even swing into face. So it does seem like no matter how we position this, it might be over. I would like to see Raka get popped, though, to kind of control this a little bit. Although, once he plays the Raka, I don't think he can eliminate both Minotaur and Griffin off of it.
Yeah, I agree. But the way Vesaven's been positioning here, making sure that an arbiter won't be able to hit Vesaven's castle has been excellent. And there's the surrender. So first game over to Vesaven,
Yep.
declared the victor, and we'll get to see Bolas bring out a counterpick option if you'd like.
Yeah, we'll see if that's going to be the case here as we do move into the post-match, though. We're going to take a look at how that went down. So let's go ahead and jump to that right now. Alright, folks, in game number 1 coming to a close, vesaven standing on top here, doing very nice work from his deck, delivering what he needed to do against the Rakaboom. Some great things in this matchup from Bolas. I mean, the 6/7 Darkbender, the board clears of Dragon's Fire, which were not in the main deck. They were good, but ultimately not really enough to deliver anything of value into the game here. Obviously, once he lost that Darkbender, I think it pretty much went downhill, and he couldn't keep up with that double Rat Hovel. Absolutely brutal stuff.
Right, the Darkbender had really high stats. Ultimately, 2 rats per turn, and the Darkbender can only attack 1 unit per turn. The swarm was just overwhelming and hard to beat. There was great positioning from Vesaven's side to counter the Luminaris, and all around a great game. Not too many mistakes from either side. They played very well.
I mean, there was that one misplay with the rat, but very minor in the grand scheme of things. I mean, the Grendel delivering those big 8/9 punches probably more valuable than that 1/1 rat in the heat of the moment. But yeah, very well played by both sides here, and I'm curious to see how Bolas is going to respond or fire back in match number 2 against the monster deck here. Any thoughts on maybe what we could see out of Bolas, what you would like to see?
Yeah, we're gonna see some counter picks, I might want to see some Vikings come in here with lots of chain lightning counter the swarm.
Alright, big points there. Maybe like a temple, L blades. Looking for some of those.
Yeah, and if not that, then bring some way to deal with the buildings. You've got to choose companions or burn or
Pulverize.
you never know. You never know.
Some of our guys get creative here, and it wouldn't surprise me one day if that would be the case. But with that being said, folks, we do have another match to get to. Match number 2 underway. Face it with the set point. Let's go ahead and jump into that match right now. Alright, folks, and match number 2 now underway as we jump into it. Looks like we've got a bit of a weird opener here. We're going to sub away the Witch Bolt, Armory, and Grundle. Pick up some fine picks, I would say.
Now the Grendel's an interesting one. I often keep Grendel just because the reduced cost of the Grendel is kind of equalized by its last will effect of giving the opponent some power. So in order to make the most use of a Grendel, you've got to get it out as early as possible. Having it out one turn earlier than Minotaur is what makes Grendel a good card.
You know what else is great early? The Rat Hovel.
The Rat Hovel, you know?
Rat Hovel gonna hit the board here, turn 2. That seems fine for Vesa. We didn't talk about how Bolas switched over to the yellow colors, though.
Yeah, that's a deck that you might remember from the previous casting conflicts.
The second to last one, or yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
We
Two casting conflicts ago.
Listen, I don't blame you since it was your last match, but yes, your last match did see the blue-yellow come out and become victorious over Atlan. So I guess you're very happy to see these combinations come back out again.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure I can totally agree with the pick though, because when I counterpicked with these same colors, it was against a deck that didn't run any burn, only companions, and so I was able to block the path towards killing the things with my so play around it that way. But direct burn, you can't block the path. So right. We're gonna see vesaven rushing forward a little bit here and trying to take advantage and take up lots of space on the field. Let's see if it plays out well for him.
Tarius doesn't. It's not the pick here because we could just bolt that away.
Oh no, Armory is a perfect top deck.
Oh yeah, that too. Yep. Connor's gonna swing into the Tarius, and then we could put the additional 6 from Witch and Manfish right on face there. Oh,
yeah, this is looking scary. He needs some freeze here. If he doesn't have it, he's in big trouble. Even if he does have it, it's looking rough.
It only is going to stick around for probably a turn at most here. Maybe not even with the rats being pushed up so aggressively. It unfortunately seems like Bolas might have run into a bit of a brick situation here. Plays the Frostbite.
No, that's not the freeze he's looking for. One card is good. Freezing one unit is good, but not going to be...
And not even trading into the Manfish. Ugh.
Yikes.
Kind of foretells that his hand must be looking bad.
Yeah, I would say if I'm vesaven, you can stun the ice giant and then block all spawn targets.
Yeah.
And vesaven can't really do much about that.
Looks like he's not gonna go for that.
He's not gonna go for that option, but it's it's a looking rough here.
It's a much faster match than the last one, that's for sure here. And yeah, kind of curious that we didn't put that 6 to face and effectively put Bolas on 1 or 2 health.
He really, really needs the Pillar of Ice top deck, and I imagine if he did that, it would have been played by now.
Yeah, I mean, Frost Giant's in the position to where he can move out of the way, still open up a spawn for himself so he's not completely blocked out. Blade.
Lightning Blade is not going to clear out all he needs to, and with 3 gold left, I'm going to call it here and say vesaven has won this matchup 2 games to none.
Yeah, pacifism hits the board. It's not what we're looking for. Vort, a lot of weird card options, and it's just not what Bolas needed. And there is the early surrender. Doesn't want to have Vesa finish off the game. He'll do it on his own terms. Oh man, what a vastly different match though. Much faster one. I'm not really sure if Bolas made the correct deck choice in this one.
Yeah, it's a, not one I certainly would have picked, but uh, it's tough to know what he had in his hand. It could have been all sorts of different options. I haven't seen that deck of his before.
Yeah, so I mean we'll have to look at it when we get into the post match here, but let's go ahead and jump to that right now. Alright folks, and welcome back after game number 2. Vesa walking away with the set point, bringing up his set record to a whopping 3-1. And yeah, this one was a pretty quick one. Another one of these, I don't want to call them squash matches, because obviously squash implies that someone is just bound to lose from the beginning. But uh, man, it was just a quick one. I think Bolas
Yeah,
unfortunately bricked in this matchup, as we only saw like the church from him and the frost giant, implying that really his hand wasn't looking too good to be throwing cards out.
yeah. When I think squash match, I think two players on a court with a racket. But in all seriousness, Bolas couldn't seem to draw his freeze auras, so I ran the numbers on that, and his chances of drawing at least one copy of a freeze aura card was 89.7%, and almost 60% of drawing two copies, and he just never did. And so it was one of those games with just the low roll, can't really do much about it, but move on and realize that next time your luck will probably be better.
Yeah, and hopefully that will be the case for him. Unfortunately, I think Bolas is now going to move into a position where he is going to be really fighting through the Raka Rumble to earn a playoff spot. And hopefully the luck that he is running into now will turn around when we get to those finals coming up here real soon. But overall, a great match from both of these guys, a great set, of course, and we still have more to come. So, with that being said, folks, what we're going to do is now throw it on off to our leaderboard here to show you guys how this match affects our standings.